The Galactic Council of United Species had existed for over 12,000 years. In that time, they'd welcomed countless civilizations into their fold, from the methane-breathing glorps of Epsilon 9 to the sentient cloud formations of the Nebuloid Collective. But none, absolutely none, had caused as much confusion, fascination, and mild terror as the bipedal primates from the unremarkable GT star in the unfashionable western spiral arm of the galaxy. Humans. The Council Chamber, a massive amphitheater carved from a single asteroid and lined with quantum-stable force fields, buzzed with the usual cacophony of diplomatic chatter. Hundreds of species, representing thousands of worlds, conducted their business in a dizzying array of languages, gestures, pheromone releases, and telepathic broadcasts. Ambassador Thornton, please refrain from smiling so widely. The Graxilians interpret it as a death threat, whispered Klee'xor, a six-limbed, blue-skinned being whose species name contained 14 apostrophes and was physically impossible for human vocal cords to pronounce. Jack Thornton, Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, immediately composed his face into what he hoped was a neutral expression. Now you look constipated, Klee'xor sighed, four of his arms gesturing in different directions simultaneously. Just try to look less human. Jack snorted. Not really an option, is it? Klee'xor had been assigned as Jack's diplomatic assistant 3 standard months ago, when humanity had finally been granted probationary membership to the Council. The blue alien had quickly learned that his new boss was, like most humans, simultaneously terrifying and baffling. Humans came from what galactic xenobiologists classified as a deathworld. High gravity, aggressive fauna, extreme weather patterns, and a shocking abundance of naturally occurring poisons and toxins. By all logical metrics, humans should have evolved into paranoid, aggressive, perpetually terrified beings. Instead, they made jokes, they composed music, they held athletic competitions for fun, they deliberately ingested mild poisons for the pleasant sensations, they kept apex predators as pets and called them good boys. It made absolutely no sense. I've reviewed today's agenda, Klee'xor continued, pulling up a holographic display from his wrist device. We have trade negotiations with the Frolosians, a cultural exchange proposal with the Zetans, and... He hesitated, all 4 of his eyes blinking in sequence. And what? Jack prompted. And the Vexillian delegation has requested a private audience. Jack frowned. The Vexillians were notoriously xenophobic and had vocally opposed humanity's admission to the Council. Did they say what they want? No, but they rarely do, Klee'xor replied. They're traditional, and by traditional I mean extremely speciesist. Jack nodded sagely. So they're jerk. I would never say that officially, Klee'xor said, even as all 4 of his eyes performed the equivalent of an eye roll. But yes, they're massive jerks. The grand banquet hall of the Galactic Council station was designed to accommodate the dining needs of over 400 different species simultaneously. Specialized atmospheric bubbles ensured that methane breathers didn't asphyxiate while seated next to oxygen dependents. Gravity plates could be adjusted for species from high or low gravity worlds. Food synthesizers could replicate anything from crystallized noble gases to complex protein structures. It was, as Jack had noted during his first visit, like a galactic food court on steroids. Tonight's reception was ostensibly to celebrate the annual Galactic Peace Accord renewal, but everyone knew these functions were really about the unofficial diplomacy, the backroom deals, the alliance formations, the subtle threats veiled as compliments. Ambassador Thornton, a voice like gravel being crushed between steel plates called out. How unexpected to find you here. Jack turned to find himself face to face with Ambassador Drezka of the Vexillian Empire. The Vexillian stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent scaled skin and a head that resembled an Earth hammerhead shark, if hammerhead sharks had metallic teeth and bioluminescent spots that changed color with their mood. Currently, those spots were pulsing a deep crimson. Ambassador Drezka, Jack replied with practiced politeness. A pleasure as always. Is it? The Vexillian's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile in their culture. I was under the impression that humans found our appearance disturbing. Jack maintained his diplomatic smile. Not at all. We have several species on Earth with similar physiological adaptations. Your head structure is remarkably similar to certain shark species. Ah, yes, your ocean's apex predators. How fitting that you would compare us. Dreskar's spots flickered to orange briefly. Although I understand your species hunts these sharks for sport, perhaps you harbor similar ambitions toward us. Jack felt Klee'xor tense beside him. This was classic Vexillian provocation. Actually, most shark species are protected under Earth conservation laws now, Jack replied smoothly. We've learned to respect all forms of life. 2 more Vexillians glided over, their long ceremonial robes barely touching the floor. Jack recognized one as Sub-Ambassador Vrento, Dreskar's right hand. Ambassador Thornton speaks of respect, Vrento said, voice dripping with disdain, yet his species spent millennia destroying their own planet. Curious definition of respect. Jack felt a twitch in his left eye but maintained his smile. We've made mistakes, certainly, but we've learned from them. That's what makes humanity resilient. Dreskar's spots pulsed purple with amusement. Resilient. What a quaint euphemism for too primitive to die off properly. A small crowd had gathered now, various council members pretending not to eavesdrop on the increasingly tense exchange. Jack could feel Klee'xor subtly tugging at his sleeve, a warning to disengage. We prefer to call it adaptability, Jack replied, his smile now fixed in place. Is that what you call it? Dresgar circled Jack like a predator. We've reviewed your species' history. You call yourselves peaceful, yet you've waged more wars among yourselves than most spacefaring civilizations have with external threats. You claim intelligence, yet you nearly rendered your own planet uninhabitable. You speak of dignity, yet your entertainment consists largely of watching each other perform humiliating acts. Jack's diplomatic smile was becoming increasingly strained. Every species has its contradictions, Ambassador. Indeed, Dresgar stopped directly in front of Jack, looming over him. But most species don't present such a danger to galactic stability. Your kind should have remained quarantined on your little blue mud ball. The assembled aliens went silent. This had crossed from diplomatic rudeness into outright insult. Jack cleared his throat. His voice, when it emerged, was eerily calm. Ambassador Dresgar, I've tolerated your speciesist remarks out of respect for diplomatic protocol, but I feel I should warn you that now I'm actually getting annoyed. The reaction was immediate and completely unexpected. The entire banquet hall erupted into chaos. Aliens of all shapes and sizes suddenly scrambled toward the exits. Some smaller species literally climbed over their larger counterparts. The gelatinous collective, usually slow-moving, became a high-velocity slime streak, heading for the nearest atmospheric tube. 3 Zentorian diplomats, each standing 9 feet tall and renowned for their stoicism, dove under a nearby refreshment table. Within 30 seconds, the only beings left in the massive hall were Jack, a trembling Klee'xor, and the Vexillian delegation, who looked both confused and smug. What just happened? Jack asked, genuinely baffled. Alarms blared throughout the station. Over the communication system, a calm AI voice announced, "Attention all diplomatic personnel. Please proceed to designated safety zones. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Jack stood in the now empty banquet hall, surrounded by overturned furniture and abandoned personal items. Seriously, what just happened? All I said was, "Don't." Klee'xor's normally blue complexion had paled to a sickly cyan. "Don't repeat those words." "What words? Now I'm actually getting annoyed," Jack asked, completely bewildered. Klee'xor made a high-pitched keening sound and placed all 6 hands over his various sensory organs. "You said it again!" The Vexillian delegation remained, looking somewhat taken aback by the extreme reaction but still maintaining their air of superiority. "Your diplomatic assistant appears distressed, Ambassador," Dresgar observed with mock concern. "Perhaps your species' legendary temper is too much even for him." "Legendary temper? What are you talking about?" Jack demanded, his confusion rapidly turning to frustration. Klee'xor had recovered enough to speak, though his voice remained several octaves higher than normal. "Ambassador, we need to move to a secure location. The station security will be here any moment, and they're authorized to use tranquilizers rated for Juraxian mountain beasts. I'm not moving anywhere until someone explains what's going on." Jack planted his feet firmly. "Why did everyone run when I said I was annoyed?" Klee'xor glanced nervously at the Vexillians, then back to Jack. "It's complicated. There's been footage from Earth." "Footage?" "Security recordings, news broadcasts, something called dashboard cameras and customer service interactions," Klee'xor explained nervously. "They've been circulating among Council species." Comprehension slowly dawned on Jack's face. "Wait, are you telling me the entire Galactic Council is afraid of angry humans?" "Not just angry," Klee'xor corrected. "There are specific escalation phrases that have been identified. 'I'm annoyed' is concerning. 'I'm actually annoyed' is a severe threat, but 'now I'm actually getting annoyed,' said exactly like that, is classified as an imminent violence indicator." Jack stared at his assistant, then at the smug Vexillian delegation, then back at Klee'xor. "You've got to be kidding me." "The Council has compiled extensive documentation," Klee'xor continued. "There's a particular Earth female who requested to speak to the manager. The footage shows her destroying an entire commercial establishment after uttering that phrase." "That's just Karen from accounting," Jack groaned. "The video went viral because it was unusual, not because it's typical." "There's also security footage of a human male calmly informing someone that they had 5 seconds to back away from my car before completely dismantling another vehicle with his bare hands." "That's from a movie," Jack exclaimed. "It's fiction." But Klee'xor was on a roll now, and multiple incidents of humans saying, "I've had enough," before performing seemingly impossible physical feats, lifting vehicles, punching through reinforced materials, continuing to fight despite sustaining injuries that would incapacitate most species. "That's adrenaline and hysterical strength. It's a documented biological response to extreme stress." Jack was nearly shouting now. "Precisely," Dreskat interjected smoothly. "Your species has evolved biological responses that make you exceptionally dangerous when provoked. Is it any wonder the Council fears what humanity might do if truly annoyed?" Jack ran a hand through his hair in exasperation. "This is ridiculous. Humans aren't some unstoppable rage monsters. We're mostly harmless." "That," said a new voice from behind them, "is debatable." The emergency council session convened in record time. Species that normally required days of ceremonial preparation before attending official functions had assembled within hours. The massive council chamber, designed to accommodate thousands, was filled to capacity. Jack stood at the center of the chamber, on the speaker's platform. Beside him stood Captain Ilara Quinn, the human military liaison to the council. Quinn was everything Jack was not. Tall, imposing, with close-cropped silver hair and the ramrod-straight posture that came from decades of military service. Where Jack preferred diplomatic finesse, Quinn was blunt to the point of abrasiveness. "Honorable representatives," Jack began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "I assure you there has been a misunderstanding. Humans express annoyance frequently. It's a common emotional state that rarely leads to violence." A ripple of disbelief ran through the assembly. The council elder, an ancient Thessalian whose translucent skin revealed the slow pulse of its multiple hearts, raised a trembling appendage. "Ambassador Thornton, we have reviewed over 10,000 hours of Earth broadcasts. The pattern is undeniable. When humans announce their annoyance in specific verbal formations, destruction invariably follows." "Those are cherry-picked examples," Jack protested. "For every video of an angry human doing something extreme, there are billions of instances where humans get annoyed and do nothing more threatening than complain on social media." Captain Quinn stepped forward. "If I may, Ambassador," she addressed the council directly, her voice crisp and authoritative. "As Earth's military representative, I can assure this council that standard human annoyance poses no threat to galactic security. The council elder's skin pulsed a nervous yellow. And yet, Captain, your own military training manual specifically instructs human soldiers to control their emotional responses. This suggests you recognize the danger. That's for discipline, not because we turn into berserkers, Quinn replied dryly. Perhaps a demonstration would help, suggested a Medusan representative, their snake-like hair appendages writhing nervously. Could Ambassador Thornton show us what happens when he becomes annoyed, under controlled conditions? I'm pretty annoyed right now, Jack muttered, and yet, miraculously, I haven't destroyed anything. Quinn barely suppressed a smirk. Look, this whole situation is absurd. Humans aren't walking weapons of mass destruction, we're just a bit passionate sometimes. Perhaps the captain could explain the Earth phrase, losing one's shit, another council member called out. Our cultural analysts have flagged this as particularly concerning. Quinn's eyebrows shot up. It's a figure of speech. It just means getting upset. And yet, the council elder interjected, your Earth media contains numerous examples of humans losing their shit and subsequently causing significant property damage or physical harm to others. Those are movies, Jack exclaimed. Fiction, entertainment. Why would violence be entertaining? Asked a confused Arthian representative, their antennae twitching in distress. Quinn stepped forward, her patience visibly wearing thin. Okay, let me be perfectly clear. Yes, humans can be dangerous when threatened. So can literally every other sentient species. The difference is, we're usually pretty vocal about warning you first. Like when you announce you are getting annoyed, the council elder stated. Exactly, Quinn replied. We're giving you a heads up. It's actually courtesy. A horrified murmur ran through the chamber. The council elder's skin turned a distressed purple. Captain, Jack whispered urgently, you're making it worse. Quinn sighed heavily. Look, what I'm trying to say is, the human military officer is confirming our fears, interrupted a panicked voice from the assembly. They use verbal warnings as part of their attack strategy. Quinn's expression darkened. Now listen here. Jack quickly stepped between Quinn and the council. What Captain Quinn means is that human communication includes emotional signaling that helps prevent conflicts from escalating. It's a peacekeeping mechanism. But the damage was done. The council chamber erupted into chaotic debate, with multiple species calling for human quarantine measures. From the Vexillian section, Ambassador Dreska watched with evident satisfaction. This is a complete disaster, Jack groaned, pacing the small confines of the human diplomatic offices. The Council is voting tomorrow on whether to revoke Earth's membership and impose a system-wide quarantine. Quinn leaned against the wall, arms crossed. I still don't understand why everyone's so worked up. We're not even close to the most dangerous species in the Council. The Drakarians literally breathe fire. Klee'xor, who had finally stopped trembling every time Jack spoke, cleared his throat. It's not just physical danger, Captain. It's unpredictability. Most species have clear aggressive displays. The Drakarians' neck frills expand. The Juraxians secrete a distinct musk. But humans? You smile when happy, but also when planning violence. You cry from sadness and from joy. And worst of all, you announce your emotional states with subtle verbal cues that don't translate well. And somehow the Vexillians knew exactly how to trigger this, Jack mused, stopping his pacing. They deliberately provoked me into saying, "Don't," Klee'xor yelped. That specific phrase, Jack finished, rolling his eyes, which means they knew about this fear already and exploited it. Quinn straightened. That's not coincidence. The Vexillians have been the most vocal opposition to Earth joining the Council from day one. Jack turned to Klee'xor. Can you access the Council's information network? See if there's any unusual activity related to human behavior analysis. Klee'xor hesitated. That would be somewhat outside protocol. Consider it a diplomatic emergency, Jack urged. 20 minutes later, Klee'xor's 4 eyes were wide with surprise. You were right. The Vexillian Diplomatic Corps has been systematically uploading and categorizing Earth media for months. specifically focusing on confrontations and aggressive incidents. They've been cherry-picking examples to make us look dangerous, Quinn said grimly. But why, Jack wondered. Just to keep us out of the council? Klee'xor continued, scrolling through data. There's more. They've filed preliminary resource claims on 3 systems near Earth's base. Claims that would normally be contested by neighboring species. Unless those species were too afraid to go near human territory, Jack finished. They're not just trying to isolate us. They're setting up a resource grab. Quinn's expression hardened. Classic tactic. Create a buffer zone around the dangerous species, then exploit it while everyone else keeps their distance. We need evidence to present to the council, Jack said. Something concrete that proves the Vexillians engineered this situation. I might have found something, Klee'xor announced, excitement evident in his voice. The Vexillians have been running xenobiological simulations, specifically modeling human aggressive responses to different provocations. They've been testing which phrases would trigger the strongest diplomatic reactions. They've been planning this for months, Quinn realized. Deliberately setting up a scenario where I'd snap and say those exact words. And now we have proof, Jack said, a slow smile spreading across his face. But proving the Vexillians' deception is only half the solution. We still need to address the Council's fear of humanity. Quinn's lips curved into a dangerous smile. I think I have an idea about that. If they're already afraid of angry humans, maybe we should give them something to really be afraid of. Captain, Jack warned, this is exactly the kind of thinking that got us into this mess. Trust me, Ambassador, Quinn replied. Sometimes the best way to dispel a myth is to turn it against those who created it. Jack looked at her skeptically. What exactly did you have in mind? Let's just say, Quinn's smile widened, that it's time for the Vexillians to learn why humans are the only species that weaponize the phrase, we need to talk. The council chamber had never been so tense. Security personnel from a dozen species lined the walls, many equipped with specialized containment technology designed for Class X biological threats. A designation Jack was disturbed to learn had been created specifically for humans. At the center of the chamber stood Jack, Quinn, and Klee'xor, facing the Vexillian delegation across the speaker's platform. Honorable Council, Jack began, his voice steady. We have uncovered evidence of deliberate manipulation and deception by the Vexillian Empire. Drezka's bioluminescent spots flashed indignantly. Baseless accusations. The human clearly seeks to distract from the genuine threat his species poses. The evidence is anything but baseless, Jack continued, nodding to Klee'xor, who projected a holographic display of the data they'd discovered. For months, the Vexillians have conducted a systematic campaign to portray humanity as unstable and dangerous, carefully curating media from Earth to present a distorted view of human behavior. Murmurs ran through the chamber as council members reviewed the evidence. Further, Jack continued, they've filed preliminary resource claims on systems that would be rendered effectively off-limits by the human quarantine they're advocating for. The council elder's skin pulsed with concern. These accusations are serious, Ambassador Drezka. How do you respond? Drezka's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. This is typical human deception. They twist facts to suit their narrative. Yes, we have studied human behavior as a security precaution, and yes, we have filed resource claims, as is our right under council law. Neither action is illegal or improper. Perhaps not individually, Jack conceded, but together they represent a calculated effort to manipulate council policy for territorial gain. Drezka's spots flashed crimson. Prove it, human. Prove intent. I believe I can help with that. Captain Quinn stepped forward, her voice eerily calm. She fixed her gaze directly on Drezka. Ambassador, I'd like to have a word with you, in private. The simple phrase, delivered in Quinn's measured military tone, sent a visible shudder through many council members. I have nothing to hide, Drezka stammered, his usual confidence faltering. Good, Quinn smiled. Not a diplomatic smile, but the kind of smile predators give when they've cornered their prey. Then you won't mind if we talk about Operation Terran Containment. Drezka froze, his spots flickering wildly between colors. I don't know what he began. Let me be clear, Quinn interrupted, taking a step closer. I'm not asking, and I'm starting to get a little bit tired of this conversation. Several security officers raised their weapons nervously. You can't intimidate me with your human aggression displays, Drezka hissed, though he took a step back. Quinn's smile widened. Oh, I'm not displaying aggression yet, Ambassador, but I am reaching the end of my patience. The chamber had gone deathly silent. Even the council elders seemed transfixed by the exchange. And just so we understand each other perfectly, Quinn continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper that somehow carried throughout the massive space. If you continue to lie to this council, I'm going to stop being polite. Rentu, the sub-ambassador, suddenly broke. It was his idea, he blurted, pointing at Drezka. The whole plan, isolate the humans, claim the buffer systems, triple our empire's dilithium reserves. I have the authorization codes to prove it. Drezka's head swiveled toward his subordinate, mandibles clacking furiously. Silence, you fool! Too late, Jack observed cheerfully. The council erupted into shocked discussion as Vrento, now thoroughly panicked, transmitted the incriminating evidence directly to the council's secure network. Hours later, after lengthy deliberations, the council reconvened to announce their decision. The Vixillian delegation will be recalled for internal investigation, the council elder declared. Their resource claims are suspended pending review, and as for Earth's membership status, it will continue with certain accommodations, Jack asked warily. A new diplomatic protocol, the elder explained, skin pulsing a gentle blue. All council species will receive cultural sensitivity training regarding human emotional expressions, and humans, in turn, will be provided with species-specific guidance on how their expressions might be interpreted. Jack nodded. That seems reasonable. Additionally, the elder continued, we request that Captain Quinn provide instruction to our security forces on the difference between actual human aggression indicators and conversational intensity. Quinn grinned, happy to help. As the council session concluded, Klee'xor approached Jack, all four eyes blinking in sequence, his species' expression of amazement. That was educational, the alien admitted. I've never seen psychological warfare conducted so effectively without a single explicit threat. That's the thing about humans, Jack replied with a smile. We rarely need to make explicit threats. Usually, we just need to talk. 3 months later, the Galactic Council introduced a standardized emotional translation matrix for all diplomatic functions. Species with dramatically different emotional expressions could now communicate their feelings without causing interstellar incidents. The most popular feature? A specialized human phrase detector, which helpfully translated expressions like, we need to talk, and I'm not angry, just disappointed, into appropriate cultural equivalents. And as for the dreaded phrase, now I'm actually getting annoyed, it received its own dedicated alert system, complete with flashing lights and a soothing automated voice that announced, human emotional escalation detected. This is almost certainly not as dangerous as you think it is. Almost certainly,